welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. I hope everyone has had a great week. Thank you, Sandra and Michelle, for being here and hanging out. It's nice to see you guys here. Okay, so if you are new here, thank you for listening, for being here. My name is Kerrilynn. I am a psychic medium based out of Ontario, Canada, just outside of Toronto. You can find all of my stuff at kerrilynshellhorn.com. The newsletter for April is being sent out soon. I'm trying really hard. I just had I have a really crazy month. Investigations and events and classes. I'm teaching this weekend for the first time in person, like a bigger class in Sarnia, Ontario. We're doing intuitive development all day, and then I'm doing a message gallery at nighttime. And I'm super excited about that. Yeah, very excited. The newsletter, if you guys would like to sign up for it, goes directly to your inbox. It will let you know where I'm going to be, upcoming events, intuitive tips, and it's going to give you all of the guests that are coming up on Spirit Switchboard for the month. All the links to any websites, books, Facebook pages. It kind of gives you the heads up for all of those things. And every once in a while, I toss in some fun stuff in there that you're not going to find in other places. So if you are enjoying Spirit Switchboard, please consider liking our channel and sharing us out. Hi, Julie. Hi, Michelle Wilfong. So Michelle Wilfong has a TikTok called My Haunted Apartment. So you guys can give her a follow as well too. Hi, Victoria, Astrolight Paranormal. So you guys, Victoria is going to be on, I believe the 25th, Victoria? She's going to be coming on talking about her experiences as well too. There's so much to talk about with our guest tonight. We gave you a little bit of a sneak peek when we had. You're so welcome, Michelle. Thank you for supporting Spirit Switchboard and all of the shows with UPRN. You're such a great support for all of our shows. A few weeks ago, we had Rebecca Pittman, who I adore. I love and adore Rebecca Pittman. She researches, and she's so respectful and funny. I appreciate how she writes. And she was on a couple of weeks ago talking about the 1771 Enfield House. And I had reached out to the Yaple family and asked them if they would come on and give us their firsthand account. And they agreed. And I'm very grateful that they've agreed to come on tonight and share from their own perspective as a family and individually what they went through and where they're at now. And I'm excited to bring them out and introduce them to you.
Hi, hello.
Jay, Mackenzie, and Elke. Yeah, thank you for being on Spirit Switchboard tonight.
Thank you for having us.
It's when I was reading the book from that Rebecca had written, there is a couple of places where I'm like, oh, that's a lot. Elke, you know what did it for me was the photo of you at the crib. We don't have to start there. We're going to start at the beginning. But that's when I was like, you can see the terror on your face, and that's just the photo. Mm-hmm. Just a photo. Living it and being in that space is a lot. I just couldn't imagine. So I'm going to say hi, Christina. Hi, Joanne. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Joyce, for being here. I know I've been talking about you guys. As soon as I started reading it and you guys had emailed me back and agreed to come on, I've been telling everybody about this story, which isn't a story, it's your life. It's your life.
Mm-hmm. It's been one incredible journey.
I bet. My first question that I have, there is a location. I'm actually investigating there tomorrow night, and I've taken, this is probably my 8th or 9th visit to this place. I love it so very much, and it's a family home built in the 1800s. Original people lived in it until like mid 80s. Everything in it, 90% of everything in it is still from that family, right?
Wow.
So there is activity as soon as you step into that house, and it's warm and welcoming, a bit playful sometimes, but I know that I'm very pulled there. I can tell you this history about this house inside and out. You guys, with that type of haunting that you had, I don't even know where to start. Like, when you were looking for a house, did that house pull you? Like, when you stepped into that house, did it feel like, yep, we're supposed to be here? What was the pull to that house?
What would I answer?
Well, Jay thought that it was a good opportunity for a starter home to build it, and because it's a duplex, so he said we can get it ready, and if we don't want to live here anymore, we can rent it out or we can sell it. So because it was really in a rough shape when we bought it. I saw the house. I saw the house, and I didn't want the house. I cannot.
You didn't want it?
No, I cannot say that I had a funky feeling because there is something in it. Because I have to say, at this point, when we looked at the house, I was not really believing in spirits or. I mean, yeah, the shows came out in 2006. The first paranormal shows, we were hooked on it, but it was just kind of like, okay, looks good. So I have no idea, but I saw the house and I'm kind of like, absolutely not. And but she made it really nice, saying kind of like, oh, I can fix it all up how we want it, and don't worry about it. And if you don't like it, we can rent it out or sell it and move. And 18 years later, here we are.
Also, the how we got into it, where like Elke was saying, I was working, and the lady I was working with, it was her husband, one of her husband's house. He had a lot of property, and he wanted to sell them to liquidate to start a car dealership. So when we came here, like, oh my God, a lot of work, because I have many hats per se, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, as they would say, but so I was already working like 65 hours, and she asked me if I could fix it. And of course, us guys were like Superman. Oh, sure, I can take care of babies and work 65 hours and build a house. So, but what got us though is that the guy kept sweetening up the offer. He gave us the keys, and he said, "Hey kids," he goes, "come back as much as you want," and it was in rough shape, and so Elke's like, I don't know. So then he would come back and say, hey, you know what? I put all brand new roofs on, all brand new electrical service, new hot water tanks, new boiler. He goes, all the big ticket items. He goes, I paid for. He goes, all you got to do is, he says, sheetrock, carpentry, Jay. He says, you got it. He goes, being a contractor, he goes, you know people out there. He goes, that'll help you. And we're like, I don't know. I said, it's still. Then he comes back again. He says, how about this? He goes, what do you think this house is going for? I said, well, the market right now, I said, even though it's in rough shape, I said about 270. He goes, you know what? He goes, my wife told me to take care of you guys. You guys having twins. He goes, how about this? 165. And I'm like, no way. I'm like that. Even if we just turned around the very next day and sold it, we're still going to make a profit. So Elke's like, I don't know. And I was like, Elke, we're never going to get another opportunity like this. So, yeah.
And I thought when we went to the lawyer. Yep.
Oh, they knew. Yeah, we knew afterwards.
Yeah. Because the first thing afterwards, when I reflecting back, that I really think they knew something, because when we went that day to sign the paperwork, kind of like to get the keys handed officially in, and after we, the first thing was kind of like, and I need insurance up front and this much up front, and I'm kind of like, yes, we out. because I have everything, penny what I had. I gave it to you. I don't have it. So we done. So the first thing what he said, oh, please see that as my my housewarming gift. I'm gonna pay you the house insurance for a year up front,
Whoa.
and they're kind of like, ugh,
You just whipped out
okay.
$1,200 and boom, it's
So
covered.
so again, so we had no chance, or I had nothing to say anymore. But the next thing was kind of like when we went out and we walked behind John and his lawyer, and he said, "My God, I'm so happy I got finally rid of this house."
And he
So
goes,
red flags everywhere, right?
there's red flags everywhere. Even
But
the week,
honestly, you would have thought it was because of the amount of construction. Like, no
Yeah.
one's going to think like I'm moving into a house that has horrific things going on in
you know,
it.
and even the week we were supposed to move, I had like 30 guys. I had, like I said, I had guys who were police officers, military. I had all kinds of guys ready to help me. And the week we were supposed to move, it rained so heavy. So then the following week, most of my friends had duty and they couldn't work. So they said, if you can wait one more week, we can. I'll help you. So we came in with a skeleton crew. I mean, no joke intended, um, but we had to wait. Then that following week, we had to move, and we were living at my father's house. We were renting one of his properties, and my uncle died, and I couldn't go to the funeral. We had him. We were moving, and my uncle's funeral was that day. And it was like everything that befell on us hit us within those 2 weeks. And when we moved in,
Wow.
we were like, Elke was 7 months
Oh,
pregnant.
that was a nightmare.
It was
Especially, my father-in-law rented already that place out. So we actually, in the way we moving our stuff out, another lady was sitting in the driveway, wanted to bring her stuff in.
Oh,
It was kind of, we had to get out. And the only thing where he said, I'll give you a couple hours if Jay and his brother can build her bed together. So they had to get her stuff first. And then we came in our house, and it was a nightmare. I mean, I found 2 weeks later, I found a gallon of milk in the attic because everything was all over the place. It took us months to get this
it was
straightened out.
fun because it was fun
Fun?
because no, it was fun because it was like, even though it was a new house, it was like treasure hunting for your own stuff. You're like, oh my God, here's my radio. Like, it's down in the basement, and
it is exhausting. It's exhausting to begin with, right? Moving to begin with, and then being 7 months pregnant with twins is a lot. Like, that's a lot. But you're still hopeful. Like, most people are excited and hopeful when they're moving into a new place, right? You're able to sort of envision what that long term, this room is going to look like this, and you have those dreams to look forward to. But yours wasn't a slow burn. That haunting was not a slow burn. That was like instant in your face.
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah, and I
we
really think the house chose us. I
yeah.
mean, it sounds now really, really far
Nope,
fetched.
does not sound weird.
But I really think so. When we did all the research and finding out, I mean, there were 5 sets of twins,
More.
and
I think
and
my
that whole history thing, and um, was kind of like everything was kind of like everywhere we had somehow a relation to something what other people had before. So, and that's why
Yeah.
I personally really believe in that the house really chose us.
And
it,
I mean, twins tend to have that, they're special to begin with, right? Twins are special. And then that intuitiveness and sometimes their own language with each other, that own connection that people,
The own
that
feeling.
bright light, if people in spirit or those spirits are attracted to light, twins bring it for sure.
it was. I'll tell you, in the beginning, I think what it did is I'm trying to find the right word I want to use, is it watched us, it stalked us, it almost like hunted us. It wanted to see what we were about, so it would do little things to each one of us to see how we were going to respond. It sounds crazy, and to see,
No.
are we going to react this way? Whatever this entity was, it was super intelligent.
I
It was
mean,
like Predator.
yeah,
That's what
but-
basically
Yeah,
what it is.
almost
Predator.
like
I
that
mean, that
Predator
thing was
movie
watching
almost.
you.
But look at it. But we still have stuff going on. This morning you were looking for your headphone
yeah.
case, and
It
sometimes
goes for things that it's like you need, or is like, you have certain things that are really personal to you and you use on a daily basis. It goes for that. I put my headphones just on my IKEA table upstairs. I just turn around for a second. I go back. It's missing. I still can't find it.
And so when you ask for it to be brought back, or does it respond or interact that way, or does it make it worse?
For some reason, it doesn't want to give it back. Like, I asked, like, hey guys, come on, please. I'm asking nicely here. Not one thing.
But I really think the reaction, what they want is you have to get mad.
It wants you to get angry.
It wants you to make you angry.
Yeah. It wants that.
What I noticed, kind of like that stuff. Most likely when something happened, it really wants to make you angry.
Yeah, and then it will reappear
And then
later,
all of a
hours
sudden,
later.
Then all of a sudden when you flip out, and then afterwards, oh, here it is.
Right?
Hello.
Also, you know what? It also, not just us, but with certain paranormal groups, it's like we over the years. I don't want to say like we used them as a almost like a test, almost like a experimental lab. But you learn as you get people come in, you learn like, oh my God, it targets some people, and then some people are like, oh, it didn't affect me, and then you're like, it didn't affect you, oh no, and then the person had 3 car accidents, 2 divorces, right? Got run over by a bus, and you're like, no, the paranormal doesn't affect me at all, and I have one finger left, but I'm fine, and I'm like, keep going, buddy, you're doing good,
I think that
but
you can
it's
answer.
but you see.
Our friend Mish, who's in Australia, so Mish is in Saturday. She's on Saturday, so good morning to Mish. She's just chiming in. I always wanted to be a twin. I even asked my mom, "Are you sure?" And our friend Kathy Lemire is sharing. I was a twin, but my mom miscarried at 5 months. I stayed, but my twin was lost. I think that connection is still there, though, when that happens. I know my mom's sister was a twin as well too, and the same thing happened where there was a miscarriage during pregnancy with one twin and the other was my aunt.
You know what? Can I tell a story? Elke actually got me on this. I started reading a little bit. There was a doctor. It's a famous book. It was a doctor. He was some kind of special surgeon, and he got really sick and he died. And he went to heaven, or what he considered heaven. Now, he said in his case, there was no way physically, because what had happened to him, the way it was cut off by his cerebral, the brain should have been dead. He should have been gone. But when he was up in heaven, there was butterflies, and these spirits were butterflies. And this girl came up to him and called him a name. And he said, "Who are you?" He goes, "I'm your sister." And told him all kinds of things, told him all about what color hair, blue, about the different color eyes, everything. So when he came back to life, he didn't know what happened, but I guess as time went on, he went to his mother and he says, was I a twin? She's like, no. And he goes, yeah. He goes, what about Miranda? I don't know if that was her name. And the mother stopped and she goes, how do you know that? He goes, well, Mom, when I died, he goes, I met Miranda. She told me she was my sister. The mother almost passed out because she had a miscarriage and the baby didn't survive. And she named it Miranda, and to give it a proper name, and never spoke of it. And when he was supposed to have died and went to heaven, he met, oh my God, I got goosebumps talking about this. He met his twin in heaven.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Those babies will come through during sessions as well too, and I always find it very powerful when they do.
Amazing.
Okay, when you guys moved into the house, how long were you in the house before you had that first experience of being pushed?
Um, Actually, about 3 weeks because I started becoming preeclampsia. So I was actually bedridden. So
Yes, I was too with my first baby. Those first babies, holy cow!
it was
Yep.
horrible, kind of like
It
those.
is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of like I felt kind of like Hoopa Loopa, but I'm kind of like
Yeah,
I'm
it feels
laying.
like 80 pounds of water.
Oh man, thank God I was working, man.
So I was laying in bed, and that's where the first thing. But I always thought, kind of like, okay, my God, it's an old house. Not everything is on the right place, so a lot of pictures were not hung up. So it didn't really look really homey yet. And I'm kind of like, well, this is all kind of like because it's not warm yet, and it makes noises. So I found every single excuse to say, oh, nobody came up the stairs. Who comes up the stairs? The door is locked. Stuff like that. So I always found a thing until I saw a dog walking by. Where I'm kind of like, okay, that is now. That was the first time where I'm kind of like thought. But then again, it took me a while before I told him because I was worried that he thinks, okay, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, okay, I don't do that either. So and yeah, and there was not really a lot of people out there where you could say, hey, did you ever heard something that did a wild dog walks through your hallway kind of type of thing? And yeah, so I think it took a couple months. When the kids were actually, when the babies were still in the NICU, we went out for a lunch.
Yeah,
And that's
I
where we
picked up in the
started kind of
hospital.
like the first time talking, hey, did ever happen something to you? Weird stuff in the house when you were alone? Because he was alone because right after I got the kids, they stayed because they were 4 weeks early. I I got released, but then I got readmitted because my blood pressure didn't came down.
Oh
So
no.
he was kind of like then he had the chance to be alone in the house. So when we reconnected, and that's where we started kind of like, hey, did you had some weird things going on when you were alone in the house? And that's how we
Yeah.
kind of like started. Something is weird. Something is not adding up yet.
And as soon as that happened, it didn't even like ramp up. It was like boom. Once we knew that there was something otherworldly, more intelligent, playing games with us, it just came in for the kill. It wasn't like Casper. It came in to destroy.
And
And
that's the thing. It's layered for sure. There's
yep,
different spirits, different time periods where from
yep,
different spirits, and then whatever that was.
yep. I
That is a whole other
other
realm of being.
people called it like a puppet master because it wouldn't let the other spirits communicate. It was whatever it was. It was very very powerful. And oh man, how long's the show? It's 2 hours, right?
Oh yeah.
All right, we got the
We
third.
we have some time. We have about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes because we started
Oh,
late,
great.
but we're good.
We're gonna get some really really wild stories because it wasn't just us, but guys who worked for me at the time came over to help me because they not only did they want to learn, but they wanted to hang out with me. But and then accidents started happening to them one after another, and there's just one guy. I can probably tell Al's story, right? Real quick. All right, I'll tell this guy's story. This guy Al, what a beautiful man. He was a really awesome guy, and I knew him, and he worked for me. And so when I bought the house, Al came up and he's like, "Listen," he goes, "I want to help you." He goes, I goes, "I'm not going to even ask for money." He goes, "I just want to learn from you." He goes, I want." He goes, "You're one of the best." And he goes, "I want to learn." So I said, "No, no." I said, "Well, I'll feed you, whatever." So he was extremely religious. So the first day he comes up after work, Elke was working nights. He pulls up and he shreds his tire. Boom. Doesn't even go back. It just rips. So the first night we went outside, got his tire going, got everything going. Didn't think it was paranormal. So then he comes back over and we're working. And all of a sudden the game started with him. It's like, Jay, he goes, where's the pencils? Where's the tape measure? So the next day I went out, and tape measures aren't cheap. I went out and bought 5 more tape measures. I got a box of pencils. Now we're all upstairs working. By the end of the night, every single tape measure was gone. He says, how can this be possible? I said, do you believe in ghosts? He goes, no. He goes, don't sell me on ghosts. I said, Al, I said, how else is it going to happen? So then when we had to go in the basement, we would find tape measures all over the place. So as time went on, it started ramping up. And all of a sudden, he was married for 20-something years. Well, first, he caught pneumonia and almost died. So I held his job for him and everything, and did everything we could, talked to his wife, got him back in shape. Al said, okay, I'm going to come over to the house now. And next thing you know, where we were working, it was a high-rise building. It was an 18-story building, and I was worried about him because he was a little bit older than I was. So I found him way down in the basement. He was crying. I said, what's going on? His wife left him. So things that started happening. I mean, he had 5 children, everything, and one thing after another. And then when I left at that company, I left to take another position. He kept coming over, and he was like family. Then all of a sudden one day I didn't see him. And his son called up and he said, hey, Mr. Yaple, he says, my dad, he goes, had a massive heart attack, and he's in the hospital. I'm like, oh my God. I said, so Al came over, and he's like, well, he said, the house can't stop me now. He says, I went through pneumonia, blew up my car. My wife left me. He goes, had a heart attack. It tried killing me. He goes, so now that we got everything out of the way, he goes, we're moving forward. So all of a sudden, a couple of months go by. Like I said, this is going to be a very emotional show too. I get a phone call, and I wish I took it, but it was late at night, and he said, just like my brother said before he passed away, Jay, Elke, anybody, please call me back. So a couple of days went by. We tried calling him. We never heard from him again. And about 3 years later, I was scrolling through the internet, and I saw his last name, and I was like, oh my God. He called me to let me know that his son was walking home when he left. He was working for this guy who had an Italian restaurant. He was walking home. A drunk driver hit him, and he lost his son. And I think that was it for him. I think and after that, I never heard from Al ever again. And these are like
tragic. And there's so many layers. Like, it starts that way for many people, those types where it's breathing issues, heart-related issues, those sorts of things. And for him to state out loud, like, well, you did everything, there's nothing else you can do. That's a challenge, right? That's a line in the sand that's been drawn, and they know how to make it worse. Those sort of demonic type entities know how to make it hurt.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
not a wish.
Elke?
That's not a wish house either.
No.
If you do you wish for, usually it doesn't happen. Not that way at all.
Yeah,
usually the opposite.
Never say anything bad in a house because it does happen, and it over and over again we've seen it. And but yeah, I mean, but I'll tell you one last weird story like that, and then we're gonna go into some happy stories. But one of the paranormal groups we had in here in the early days, they were seasoned paranormal veterans. They actually, the gentleman's name was Orlando, and he worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren with his partner.
I think. Can you hang on a second, Jay? I think that I lifted that off of the Facebook page. Did you guys recently get together? Because I think Joe Frankie's in that picture. John Zaffis.
Yeah,
that was what I'm talking about?
January. That was in January.
That was in January. We all hung out. We all went to go see him talk, and then So what happened was I saw where John texted me. And I'm like, hey, I said, we're over here up in Waterbury. I said, why don't you come up? LOL. So next thing I know, it was like the group of Highlanders, right? All of a sudden, two more well-known names walk in, right? And they sit down at our table. Yeah, right there. So then all of a sudden, I see this guy in a red come up and he smiles at me. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, John showed up. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, well, a little bird told me that I was sitting home being bored. So he goes, I wanted to prove him wrong. And that was John. So John showed up. Everybody came in there. And there was that night in that place, a lot of experience came together. A lot of great people.
Yeah, and I believe so. Joe Frankie was helped investigate for 3 years or more, did he not?
He came in. What happened was it was
There's
him
so
and his
many
partner.
people.
Yeah, and his partner almost paid the ultimate price. So in the beginning, Joe, something happened to Joe. Every time Joe would come over, something would happen to him. So he would have to leave. So his partner stayed here, but his partner got so mad one day, and he said to this entity, which you never do, and I won't even say it. He asked the entity to take him on, and
Uh-oh.
he slipped, and he goes, guys, um, and everybody's like, well, you know what? Maybe nothing's going to happen. It waited a year, and it went after him and his family. Till this day, he actually talked to Lorraine about it, and I got text messages where I'm like, hey, Orlando, I'm like, what does Lorraine think? He goes, she thinks it's a very powerful demon. He goes, I'm working with Tony, and I'm working with her. He goes, we're trying to put a game plan together. So, go ahead, Courtney. I was in the middle of the story.
No, she doesn't want to say.
I know. So what happened was, Joe, something happened to Joe, and he pulled out. So Orlando fought until 2015, and he, at the very end, he basically said, no one's allowed here, none of his team members, only him and Joe. And then finally, Joe, things were happening to Joe so bad that Joe pulled out. So Orlando's like, I'm gonna fight, but in one way, I'm glad he hung in there. But then it got to the point where his sons were waking up, and his sons knew nothing about this house. And his sons were describing our house, saying that this man is coming. And he said, Jay. So finally, he said, I'm never going to leave you guys. He said, I'll be here. But he goes, I can't do this no more. He goes, it's destroying me, and it won't stop. He literally begged Elke, and he says, Elke, please, for the love of God. He goes, can I come back? And it was the saddest thing ever to see a grown man. And he walked in the door. He dropped on his knees. He's raised his hands. And he started crying. He goes, please, for the love of God, haven't I suffered enough? Please leave me alone, please. And he begged the entity to leave him alone. And we just talked to him a couple weeks ago, and I said,
he doesn't want to come out.
He won't come out. He goes, your house is a reason why I'm out of the paranormal field. He goes, it destroyed me. And yeah.
But that entity, I just want to do a quick hello. Hi, Kerrilynn. Thank you for being here. Joanne Belisario, I'm not sure if I said hello to you, so thank you for being here. I'm saying hello now. And Stephen Wojo. So Stephen, our friend Stephen, if you're still listening in the chat, thank you for being here. He is part of Bigfoot Banter with Richie B. It's a podcast. They go in the back of Richie's property, and they're having all kinds of encounters with the Bigfoot that are on that property. So they do these live, like boots on the ground. You can watch them and go with them as they're doing their investigations, which is a whole lot of fun. But
gotta send Mackenzie in there, man, with Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it too. Thank you for being here, Stephen. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for being here. I agreed, Michelle. Wow, just wow. And that's like a small group of of people, right? You had two different, was there two different bishops or reverends as well too? Bishop
We had
Bailey?
God,
normal groups. I think, I mean,
we had, yeah, I'm gonna let Elke, but we had the famous Bishop McKenna. We had a gentleman, his name was Bob Baker. He was probably one of he was probably one of the best paranormal investigators I ever met in my life. He never gave up. He got scratched, he got pushed, he got bit.
nine paranormal teams altogether. Nine
Wow.
paranormal teams.
And so Bob, that's how we did all how we got involved in the TV shows, because Bob says I've done everything I can. So he called up he called up oh my God, Bishop Robert McKenna, and he was at the house. He says, Bishop McKenna, this is Bob. And he goes, I need you. He goes, Bob, he goes, I just retired. He goes, Bob, there's kids involved. He goes, oh, what the heck? One more, Bob. So this is the scary part. This is like something straight out of a horror movie. Bob's like, he goes, when the bishop comes, make sure you have all his snacks, his little salami, his cheeses, and things that he likes to eat, his teas. And so he called us up, and he's like, I'm 15 minutes away from the bishop's residence. Are you guys home? I said, yeah. He goes, I hope you guys really appreciate what I'm doing for you. He goes, I have to ride an hour and a half to 2 hours to your house listening to the bishop talk about God and Jesus. And then on the way back, I got to listen to God and Jesus. He goes, he's made 3 hours of church service, Jay. So I said, no, Bob, we really appreciate it. So all of a sudden, Elke's getting everything ready. And so the phone rings. It's Bob. He goes, you're not going to believe this. He goes, any other house? He goes, I wouldn't believe it. He goes, the bishop's secretary just called. The bishop wrote on a piece of paper, he got struck with a mouth infection and could not speak. And he said to let the Yaples know he's still coming out, but don't tell him when, in case of whatever attacked him came from the house. And then 3 months later, yeah, I hear this little knock on the door, and I thought it was kids playing a game because it was so light. So, being in the trade fields and being in the military, sometimes we have ways we swear. So I thought it was kids. So I opened the door and I'm like, who the? And I'm like, and the bishop's like, we're going to talk about this. And I'm like, hello. He goes, I'm Bishop Robert McKenna. I'm like, come on in. And he was one of the nicest.
Oh, dear.
I was scared the whole time because I wasn't afraid about him driving the demons. I was afraid of him talking to me about me swearing. Yeah. So,
and even what the backlash of that is, because the ripple effect after they leave, if it hadn't been worked, like,
yes.
So we said we can make it better or we can make it worse. So he said we have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And it
got worse, yeah.
It got worse.
Yeah. And that's what he said. He said, he pulled me over to the side and he said, we talked. He's fantastic, and fantastic, man. We talked for hours about all kinds of things. And he said, you know what, Jay? He goes, the good guys don't always win. He goes, there's been several, if not well-known exorcists that lost their lives fighting these things. He says, what we want is for this thing to go away and not come back. But he goes, when it does come back, he goes, it can bring friends. And he goes, we don't want that. He goes, all we can do is wait until time happens. So we had peace for 2 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then things started happening. And but yeah, he was a great guy. We had him in here. And then Bob said, the only thing I can do, he goes, I have these TV shows coming. He goes, I encourage you to do as many as possible. He goes, they're really hard to do. He goes, they're not a lot of fun doing them. It's a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes, our goal is someone out there is going to see this and know how to handle it. And then in 2015, I got a phone call from a lady who said her husband and another gentleman by the name of Reverend Neil Farley could help us. And they paid for the whole trip up here. They wouldn't take one dime. They said, we're doing this because we're doing God's work. And the gentleman, his name was Jay Dodd. And Dodd that's a whole other horror story. J-Dot almost died 3 times fighting this entity. And finally, after 2 days, knock on wood, we believe that J-Dot and Reverend Farley were successful of getting rid of that one entity. And we had peace for about a year and a half. And then I'm going to let Mackenzie kick in because as you can tell, I can tell stories. I'm the storyteller.
That's okay. Mackenzie, before you start, and I'm so grateful. Like, it's brave to share your story. It's brave to tell people what's happening in your home because there is such a stigma. Even there's just you feel isolated, ostracized, which is also what these entities want to happen as well too. But just even like to be saying that you're like, as a medium, my kids didn't tell all their friends because they didn't want people to know. When I went to visit my daughter at university, she's like, don't wear your hoodies with your name on them. Like, don't advertise what you do. You know, she said, like, I tell people you're a hairstylist. Like, which was at one point.
It's the question why from 2015 to 2022, you didn't hear not one peep from us. And we always get the question, what happened in this time frame? And I'm kind of like, I can tell you that because kids started going to school. Kids started, oh, you live in a spooky house. Yeah. And I got to the point, they got thrown out of preschool because it was fantastic. So we said, we really have to stop. After we got it quiet, we said, okay, for the sake of the kids.
Yeah, and whatever your normal is, like, we still have stuff going on in our house and with my job, and spirits show up and things happen, but it's our normal. Like, it's our normal, and we know how to maneuver and navigate through it.
Exactly.
Well, I try to say as much because there is kids my age and younger that go through the same thing and doesn't have the help or doesn't have the parents that believe them, saying, oh my God, there's something going across, and they send them their therapy. So I try to put the word out and, say it's okay to see these things. It's not you. It's okay to see these things.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to show the picture, Mackenzie.
Picture
you
time.
didn't send it to me. It was actually from, I'm just going to see if I can hold it up from the book, because when we're talking about it's the hand, like the bloody handprint, you can say that it's a handprint, but that's elongated fingers. That's not normal. Like, that's not a handprint. That is something totally different. And I don't know if it will show up on here because I didn't have the original one. So I pulled it up, but we'll see folks in the chat if you guys can see it. We'll try.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We can see that. Yep.
Yeah, we can see it. I would assume everyone sees it. Yeah.
Because it was on both sides. Like, that's the kind of stuff. That's not even all this. Like, that's not the scratches or the growls or the bites or anything. Like, stuff happened from babies on.
Mm-hmm. This is so scary. I mean, when you think about it, with all these movies out there, I mean, we live that. And it's like, it was scary. So it's like, when you tell people stuff, it's like, yeah, it's nice to live in a haunted house, but at the same point, I wish no one with it. I wish that on no one, because that was hell.
But it wasn't just us that witnessed this. We had police that witnessed it, firefighters. Mm-hmm. One day when Courtney, I was telling my last story here. One day when Courtney was a baby, for some reason she developed this fear of police officers. So I opened up the door and I saw an officer sitting in his cruiser and he was on his laptop. So I went out there. I said, "Are you busy?" And he goes, "No, why?" And I said, "My daughter is really afraid of you guys." He goes, "Oh, no problem." He goes, "What house?" So we went in the house. Now he knelt down. Now when you open the door, the staircase is right there. So he knelt down. He goes, "I'm the good guy." He goes, "You see the badge?" He goes, "I'm the good guy." He goes, "Anything you need help with, I'm here to help you." So Courtney, at the time, she was like maybe 4 or 5 years old. She had her fingers in her mouth, and she says, she points upstairs. She goes, "Are you here to take Spooky out?" So he looked up, and he looked back and he looked up again because he saw something. So when he looked up, he thought he was going to see nothing, but he looked up and then his mind didn't catch up as fast as he thought it was. And he looked back up and then he's like, you know what? What he saw was a big black shadow came over and stood there. So when Courtney said, are you here to take Spooky out? Well, at that very moment, Spooky, what she called the black shadow, showed up. And when he looked again because he couldn't register in his mind what he was seeing. And when he realized that, you know what, this is not a human, he doesn't know what it is, he decides, you know what, come on, everybody, let's go out to my cruiser and we're going to play with the lights and the sirens and you guys can go hang out in the cruiser. And then he looked at me, threw me a dirty look, and he's like, never again. And I never told anybody that. And he was upset because he didn't, I don't know if he believed in ghosts or not, but what he saw, he said later on, he goes, I saw that. And he never came back.
It is life altering for people when they have that kind of experience when they've never had it before. It destroys what they feel, their perception of what reality is changes.
Yeah, it does. It shocks them, and it changed. It's like you said, it changes their whole reality. Like other police officers joking around one day, and it was a hot summer day, and I was working, and they were working on the street, and this guy I knew, I'll just call him Jimmy. I won't use any real names. And he's like, "Hey Jay," he says, "if I see you getting choked by something," he goes, "the only thing that he goes, I'm gonna be able to do," he goes, "I'll throw you my gun and pray for you." That's how even afraid some of the police officers were of the house, that they wouldn't even come in. They said, even if you're being choked out by this entity, all I'm going to do is throw you my weapon, and he goes, you're on your own. So that shows that we were known to be the spooky house, and only if they knew what was really happening inside the house was horrible, terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mackenzie. Would you like to
She's
come in?
twice.
That's okay.
You're on the hot seat now, buddy. Yeah, we're gonna get you out of that shyness. This is your business. You wanted to have a business. This is yours.
Any questions? Feel free.
What I'm gonna do, thank you, James. I'm just going to do our station ID really quickly because then we won't have to stop. We'll be able just to keep going till the end of the show. So I'm going to do our station ID really quickly, and then we can hop in. And I have some questions for you, and then we can get those conversations rolling. So if you are just joining us now, thank you. I see you, Howie, and thanks for being here. Sandra Kordick, I agree. It is spooky, that handprint for sure. So if you are just listening to us now, thank you for being here. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard, and I'm your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn. You are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. If you are liking this show and want to check out all the other fabulous shows that UPRN has, please go to uprntalkradio.com. And you can check out all of the fabulous shows. There's something for everyone there. And all of our archive shows, thousands of archived shows are there as well too for you to access. I am your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and today's guests are the Yaple family of the 1771 Enfield House in Connecticut, Jay, Mackenzie, and Elke. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Can you, Mackenzie? Just 1 second. So Heidi, hi Heidi. Thank you for being here. You just linger around Facebook for a minute and stop by to say hello. Thank you, Heidi. So Heidi is also part of Bigfoot Banter with Richie B. She kind of helps them out over there in that family structure and supports us all here. Thank you for being here. One of the things I did write spooky down, Mackenzie. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So we kind of hit spooky. Spooky is that dark shadow, the old man in the window and the party next door.
Yes.
Experiences.
So experience. Yeah. Me and Courtney came up with the name, and I do have to say, I feel a lot for my sister because she has the ability to see more and everything. So it's kind of hard for me to try to help her out without kind of knowing how to help. So that's why
Right.
we learn our own communication, everything, and that's where we develop the name Spooky.
Well, it's appropriate, and you choose from we choose the language that works best for us, right? We had special words, so my kids could see spirits from the time that they were little as well, because I could from the time I was little. So I have 4 children. They're adults, all adults now, between 31 and 20, and we had specific words for specific things, and we even had, like, stranger danger. Don't get into the car unless they know your code word, kind of thing. So we had spirit code words too. If there was something when we were out and it didn't feel good, there was a certain word that they would say. So I knew that it was energetic or they were seeing something, so that we could deal with it quietly and respectfully. So yeah, we had even spirit code words.
That's cool.
That
Those
is
help a
awesome.
lot.
I like that. Code words like it's like rainbow six over here, and then you're like, don't go down the aisle because there's something. Yeah, that's cool.
Howie's asking, do they believe the energies from the 17 to 1800s were they physically involved, physical interactions? So the house has a huge history on battlefield property, correct? Is it battlefield property?
Well, we have everything. This area, there was early before that, there was a
Native American.
dispute. Massachusetts, Enfield was actually belonging to Massachusetts. So there was a big fight going on. So there was a lot of fighting. But then also settlers collaborated with Indians, and the Indian tribe who was located in our area,
It's
because
pretty
we're
big.
really close to the river, to the Connecticut River, and they eradicated that whole tribe right in this area where we have. And then we also had witch trials here, kind of like
Yes.
Salem.
Before Salem.
Yeah.
Before Salem.
So,
Oh,
so we have it all. So we really don't
It was a
know.
melting pot.
Could have been anything. It could have been all of it from the years with the tragedy and everything that cursed the land.
And we have to be careful with certain. We have to be careful with certain words that we use. So there was also unaliving that happened by choice and not by choice.
Yep.
In that space as well too, like a history of it, right?
It's
We also find out 4 weeks ago we had friends over, and they're both are what is it called? What are they? Oh my God! Now I forgot the word.
okay. Jeanette was an empath.
Empath.
Very powerful,
and Petra, and
she has really powerful psychic abilities.
So they had their fair share, but what I'm stuck on is they went outside, and we had out there, and I think it's in the book too. There is that tree who looks kind of like who has arms, and we got early on told from a psychic, do not take that tree down. So, my friend is the godmother of Courtney and Mackenzie, and her son, a heart of gold. He said, I help you, and he helped here renovating and getting stuff going. And one day he said, you know what, you need the big fence out there, not alone for the dogs. The kids want to go outside, but we have to take the tree down. And I'm kind of like, I don't like that idea that you want to take the tree down. So, but in effect, he took the tree down. And so when they went out there and we told them the story, what was really weird is Jay and Mackenzie built a shed where that tree was. So they grinded that stump all the way down. So, and then they put the base for the shed down. And last year in October, they said, it's kind of weird. My floor is coming up. I'm kind of like, what? And we go out there, and where the tree was, but we were not thinking really what the tree come growing out. So he said, I have to open that up because he destroys the floor. So they opened up the floor, and all these bugs came out. Well, I thought that was creepy enough. Some kind of like huge box came out, and then the tree was kind of like lifting literally the floor up from it, and we were
Not
telling
growing.
not
The
growing. The
stump came
stump
back
came
and started
up.
coming up.
Not yeah.
And we burned that thing. We made sure that thing was dead. I mean, and then all of a sudden it started coming back up. So we looked at each other and we're like, what is going on? Like this is not normal.
Yeah.
So finally we did it again, just like went axe to axe, and then after that,
Because what people realize is what we did is we laid down this plywood, but we didn't just lay it on the ground. When we built it, we took landscaping
yeah.
timber and we raised it up about this much with gravel, at least 8 inches of gravel, and then we put the flag on top because it was supposed to be just a temporary shed.
Let me see if I can find it.
And then all of a sudden, we noticed that one of the plywood started lifting up and started getting bigger. And I have a pellet stove in there. And so we said last year, I said, like Elke was saying, let's see what's causing this thing to upheave. And when we saw it, we're like, no way. And we're like, this can't be happening.
Yeah.
I said, we chopped this thing and did everything.
So when Jeanette and Petra were out there and they were in the shed and they did the dowsing rods, but they also said, I get kind of like a feeling something is here buried. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I really believe, yeah, we have bodies buried, but so she was kind of like saying, you know what? I get that feeling. You had a witch on your property too, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that might be happening because we had witch trials here. But then they said, well, we did a little research. The next day they came and they said, we did a little research, and I said, no, I really think then I know now why they told you not to remove the tree. I'm kind of like, why? And she said, in those days when they had a suspicion that there was a witch, when they buried her, they put a tree, they planted a tree over it so that the roots will, so she's be captured that she can't get out. So now you set the trees down, you cut the tree down, so everything's dying off. And I mean, personally, it gave me the creep when she said, now it's kind of weird that that stump thing is coming up and pushes your floor up. So
yeah, and the same thing, but you don't know really the history either. Like people were accused of being a witch, and what they really did to deserve that are two different things. And
so that was, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but that was the tree stump. Like you could see how, like, I mean, that thing was gone. I mean, it was oblivious. I mean, and it was still coming out. I mean, it was unbelievable.
wow, eh?
yeah, you're right. We don't know if she really, I mean, people got accused
Yeah.
for anything. I mean, you did something wrong and you were accused. I mean,
She said, though, that's the weird thing. What was weird is I was out there. They both had dowsing rods. And they asked, and I felt really weird because my shed is not finished, so it's covered up like a big blue tarp. And they're like, is there any bodies buried here? And they had the dowsing rods. And they weren't side by side. They were like this. All of a sudden, they pointed and they start walking. They said, they realized, they said, can you show us where the body is? And it starts going to my shed. I'm like, oh my God. I said, this is like something from like the Chainsaw Massacre. Oh, that's my woodworking shop. So,
okay. Did it go further though? Like, does that spirit or that person need something? Can you plant another tree for them? Is there something?
we did actually last week, Kenzie, was it last week or the week?
Yeah, it was last week.
We did actually, because I have a friend in Germany and she's really gifted. I mean, so I'm in contact with her constantly, and she said to me, I got, because hi Chris, and we got, I told her everything, what Petra was saying, and she said, I see what I can do. And she's traveling. So she said, I had not contact with that person, but I had contact with an Indian tribe, with someone. And and she said it was bad because he was really hurt, because I guess he was one of them where the whole tribe got already killed. And so Iris said, you know what, to make peace, everything in that area, even where your tree stem is, because you don't know, she said, offer tobacco. So we did, actually, she was with us on the phone, and we did a ceremony out there. So we actually buried a tobacco, and she came actually a couple days back, and she posted it too, because she went back, and you could clearly hear, thank you, was a big help.
Yeah. So it was like they were happy with it.
So there's an audio EVP, or she heard crazy.
No, it is an audio, but I mean, it's in German, but it is an audio.
That's okay. That's even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. That always throws me off. How can you communicate in all these? That throws me always off, because sometimes I hear, oh, I talked to your mom, and when you talk to your grandmother, and I'm kind of like, my parents didn't speak English. How can you?
I don't think it's kind of like your divine team and ours, whoever it is that's doing the work, put it into English. But depending on who the medium is that's working, like I know that I get bits and pieces of different words in their dialect, just so I know I'm on the right track. Like they'll give me one word or like a phrase, and I know that I'm on the right track.
Yeah, this girl's really good. She works.
I want
to boost her up. Yeah. She works with the German government solving cold cases. So
I love that. It's brilliant.
Hit it off because they're both from Germany, and she started tapping into the house. And I'll let Elke tell you this whole story.
I mean, she still denies it. She said, "Nah, it's not happening." I personally really think, because we did, she has also a paranormal group over there, and we did some sessions where we did interviews, but they had also recordings going in the back. So when they were listening to the recordings multiple times, a warning came through, kind of like, stop, stay away, stop. And so all her, there are 5 in that group, and they're all mediums, and all 4 of them said to Iris, hey, we got the warning, we have to stay away, okay? We cannot get involved. So these 4, she said, no, Elke is my friend, I don't give up, I'm going to stay there. Then I didn't hear from her for a while. And I'm kind of like, life is busy. But then it got longer, and that was kind of like really odd. So I contacted one of her partners, and I said, hey, I don't hear anything from Iris. That's next door. And I'm kind of like, what happened? She said, oh, you didn't hear? Iris had a really severe heart attack and died 3 times. And I'm kind of like, oh, my God. So I always ask her when I talk to her, I said, I'm not sure, because I said, I want you to be careful. And she said, I know that's why I know something happened, because she said, I know how far I can go. I know how far I can go. I get that all the time. And she said, I do what I can do. And so, and I really think that had something to do.
She's amazing. I mean, when I amazing, last year we had a group of people that wanted to come in here. And she got a hold of Elke. And now at this time, we didn't release anybody's names who was coming out. And she said, tricksters. And Elke's like, what? She goes, they're not who they say they are. And she says, don't let them in your house. Elke's like, why? She goes, they're pretending to come in to help you, but they're tricksters. They're going to be doing something else. And we're like, what are you talking about? And then they went in later on, right? And then she named the names of the people coming in. And it was, I mean, she is, I mean,
and you would have to be careful about who you let in the house, in not allowing anything to get poked or allowed in? A door open where something else happens again?
Hmm.
As
Yeah,
bad
she
as it was.
always kind of like, I know it was one house in one point. I mean, when the house was built, it was a huge house. And I really believe too, I mean, the owner of the house was actually um, uh, created our Thompsonville. That's the section of our town, and he was really rich because he had a carpet factory here, and so this house had kind of like in the cellar we had beehive ovens and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure they had servants and everything in the 1770. And she said, I know they know it's one house, but she said if you have investigations or anything going, you can't do it on the renter side, but we made a barrier not on your side. Don't let them come on your side because there is a barrier, so they cannot cross over and kind of like kind of like make your life miserable again, because that's like a lot of fear of it. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's my German Shepherd. She got into a playful mood. I'm like,
That's okay. I put my dog. I know. I had to put my dogs because this is the time when they run around with their squeaky toys and everything as well too, right?
so now that we still got some time, now you want to hear some really scary stories? Well,
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know if there's something Mackenzie would like to share.
Yes, yes. Well, we want to get Mackenzie to speak. As I said, guys,
The old man in the window. Was it Courtney or you that saw the old man in the window?
That was Courtney. Courtney saw a lot, and when I was a kid, I believed in it, but I was hesitant because I was scared. I mean, I was a kid. I was like, I'm not sure what I'm. So I went under my sister's bed because we believed this thing was like kind of like living under there, like really tormenting her. So like I went under there and I was like, okay. I literally could feel like I got lifted up about this much. Could feel like someone pressed against the ceiling, and I could feel myself lift up. So I went underneath and I looked at Courtney. I said, "There's nothing under your bed, so you can go to bed." I went on top of my bunk bed. I didn't sleep the whole night. I was scared. I mean, after getting lifted up and seeing shadows and everything, I was like.
Also,
you created your own. You created your own like clothing line and work out of the renter side, correct?
That is correct. I work over there on the master bedroom next door.
do we have any
There's
t-shirts?
quite a bit of activity over there for sure. They definitely do let me know when they don't want me over there. Sounds definitely crazy, but I definitely
because you're coexisting with them.
Yeah. I'm like working around them, and then I feel like I hit a certain time where they really get, I don't want to say angry, but they get irritated, and then a lot more activity starts to happen. And then that's where I know, like, I start getting that eerie feeling like something's going to happen. So if I don't go next door, something's going to like.
So what kind of activity happens? How do they let you know that they're ready for you to leave the space?
So my main issue is that closet next door. I have the biggest problem with that because there's scratching. The doors will move slightly. I'll hear sometimes like people talking. So like it's more of the scratching where it starts increasing the more times it happens, or the staircase, you can hear it creak. So the more noise it makes, it kind of lets me know it's kind of hitting that time where I have to go next door on my side. Yep. So they can have their side over there and we have our side over here.
Wow.
Also talk about that time.
The cabinet.
That one got me because we were working.
It was just weird. We were in the kitchen and my dad was cooking, and I was playing around and I was knocking on the cabinets. So like I knocked like that, and I think was it maybe like 3 or 4 minutes we waited, and all of a sudden you hear.
It started knocking back, and she was playing, and I was too busy cooking, and she was like, and then you hear.
Yeah, it was like mocking me. It was like, I can do the same thing too. And I was like, okay.
And then how she stopped is after they were going back and forth, and she thought it was funny. And then by the time I caught on what was going on, I was like, the cabinet door opened up, And I was like, oh my God, Kenzie, what did you do?
Yeah. See, now I feel like I don't get scared as much anymore because I face my fears of going in that basement, pitch black, where the crawl space is, going like near it. And I think once you kind of like, I don't want to say overcome it, but you kind of respect it and like kind of accept like, you know, the boundaries and everything.
Yeah.
It gets easier. If you try to fight it, you're not going to win. You just got to overcome where the boundaries are.
Yeah, I think we all kind of like at the point, we leave you alone. You leave us alone.
It's like coexisting. It's like they
coexist.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a lot because I also had read like House of Darkness, House of Light by Andrea Perrin. So her take about her family living in the Conjuring house, like the original Conjuring house. There was something that was pretty poignant for me in her story where she said like as they were driving away, there was almost a sadness for her because their growing up years were around these spirits, and even though there was horrific things that happened to them as well too, there was the coexistence. There is a normalcy, like you know, not, I don't want to say comfort level, but we understand the noises of that house, so we understand those things, so you expect it, and it's just your normal. So there was an affection almost for the spirits that were in that space, and who was going to take care of them or what was going to happen next. And I wondered if that was like for you guys as well too. There is some not comfort level is probably the wrong term, but do you know what I'm trying to?
It's like you don't register anymore.
No, it's normalized
anymore. Someone else, if you have someone in here who's visiting us, and all of a sudden you say, oh, "Did you hear that?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
no.
It's
like, or like when I go to sleepovers, it sounds really crazy, but when I go over to someone's house, I'm always expecting noises to happen or I hear things. Yeah. And I actually don't sleep at the sleepover because it's so quiet. Because I'm so used to either something moving or like I'll hear like little faint whispers of people talking, and it's like I get so used to that. So when I don't hear that, it's like odd, and it's like, and everyone's like, "Why are you not sleeping?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not used to a quiet house."
Exactly. You almost have to have your own little private sound machine, sleep machine with the white noise in your earbuds to sleep. Yeah, some background noise.
Me and Elke do.
We cannot sleep without it anymore. We lay in bed and then all of a sudden, the machine is not on.
She's like, "Get up, Jay," and she goes, "Turn the machine on." I'm like, "It's always me. I gotta get up in the dark."
Yeah, because we had last week, we still had the stuff. We have some paranormal equipment, and one of them is that Boo Bear, kind of like when you touch him, you know, he goes off. Sounds. So
that was scary.
We left him next door, and we laying in bed, and all of a sudden we heard ding, 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 ding. That thing goes off. And I'm kind of like, that's kind of odd. Okay, whatever. I said, it's not bad. It's not bad. Whatever. Someone has fun because we have little kids here. So we kind of like, maybe they have fun and play with it. So the next morning, I talked to Mackenzie and I said, "Oh, you can't believe it. Last night, that little bear went off with it." And she said, looked at me and she said, "What?" And I'm kind of like, "Why? What do you know?" And she said, "I had a couple of days before I had a sleepover and that thing was going off all the time." Yeah, so I took the
by the closet, the bear wouldn't stop going off because something was going near it. So my friend was getting freaked out. So I just took the batteries off it. So the next morning and the next following day, they're like, did the bears going off or anything? Did you take the batteries? I'm like, I did. I'm like, and they're like, then something was either using energy to power it, and that takes a lot of energy to do that.
Like, yes, it does. And I love that. Like, I love when that stuff, like when the radio turns on, but it's not plugged in.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Or love that.
Yeah. I mean, certain things too, like when people think like, oh, that was something small. For someone non-paranormal, for us, it's like, that's a lot. Like, it's for huge. Someone on that side to really do it, it's just intelligently, is crazy.
And adamant, that they're that adamant to let their presence known, right? Like that we're still here.
The table saw went on fire, and it was not plugged in.
Yeah.
That was
I had
scary.
this was crazy. Oh, you guys bring up my memories. Years ago, I was getting ready to. I had my I had a portable. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a portable table saw, and I had put it out in the back where the old garage shed was, and I had my little fish pond stream, and so I was gonna get it ready because I had to cut some wood, and all of a sudden, Elka's like, "Hey, my sister's coming over with her boyfriend." And she's like, "Come on inside. That's where we're gonna eat and stuff." So I'm like, "Okay." Now I never plugged it in, and I never even ran an extension cord. Nothing. All of a sudden, we're inside, and I can smell plastic burning, and I'm like, and everybody's running around plastic. So I just happened to open up. It was the summertime. I opened up the kitchen door, and my table saw burst into flames. And I'm running out there. I got the hose, and I'm like, it's not even plugged in. How does something just burst in flames? It did not want that table saw out there.
Another time too,
That
where
was
Did it
bad.
not want the table saw, or did it not want you doing more work? Like whatever your intention was, it didn't want you doing it.
Maybe it didn't want me to do whatever I had planned on doing, and it was not cheap. It was almost a $600 table saw, and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, that's another thing. We have more experience, paranormal experience going on when he does something in the house. When he builds something or something, then sometimes it wraps up too, because I don't think sometimes they like it.
Well, when we were working in the attic,
So do you ask them ahead of time? Like, do you say, okay, there's work that needs to be done. These are our options. We need to do this or this. How you feeling?
Hi, I'm Courtney. The thing about spirits is they don't change. And I've noticed that because no matter you change anything in the house, could be the wall color, you could move furniture, it could be anything. They don't change, and I really feel like they don't change because I think they're stuck in the past, and I think they're used to what they want. And I don't think every time something changes, they probably get mad. I just redid my whole room, and ever since then, I've had activity up there, so they don't like change. So
no, I agree with you. They don't like change. But also, so do they understand that they're dead? Like that there's that question. Do they understand that they are dead and that you own the house, right?
I think some of them do, but some of them I don't think so. But we just learned to ask what because we got told for years not to talk to them. So for years we got drilled in it. Don't talk, because I had at the beginning constantly someone opened up the dryer and throw the clothes out. So I had one day I had enough, and I said, you know what, the next time when you empty it, can you fold it at least and put it in the basket? And I made fun of it, and I'm in the paranormal, and an investigator flipped out. He said, you do not engage with this, you don't talk to them. And we just learned over the last year that it's actually okay to talk to them and know what they want.
Because the spirit that's in, when my daughter would come home from school, from university, she had lights that would, fairy lights, all up in her room. So she would come home from university, and they would not be plugged in, but they would light up because the spirits were so excited about her coming home for the weekend. These would light up, but my daughter was not wanting, a lot of the activity that was happening, because the closet door would open, she'd hear knocks and all that kind of stuff. So she would come to the door and she'd go, hey, I'm home for the weekend. No Shiza stuff. I do not want you to knock, but you can flick the lights a couple of times and that's good. And she would it was almost like E.T. in her closet. She would leave little gifts by the door. And this is an appeasement. And I mean, it worked for her, and it doesn't work for all spirits, but you do have to coexist somehow.
We had in January, we were sitting here watching TV, and all of a sudden the Ring camera went off next door. And she looked, and there was nothing because we had nobody next door.
Now, this was at nighttime.
Yeah.
So
and then a little bit late, I fell asleep. I have the tendency when I watch TV, and I have this position, I'm kind of like, poop, I'm out. So, and the ring went off again, and he said, oh my God. And he looked, and nothing there. But then he heard people talking. And he woke me up, and I'm kind of like, what the matter with you? And he said, there is someone next door. I hear someone talking. And I guess because he turned the sound on, and he heard over that.
Freaked me out. That was scary.
We have to be quiet. They're listening to us.
Oh.
I never turned the volume on, but I was over there cleaning, getting stuff ready, and I left around 9 o'clock. So we came over watching TV, and all of a sudden, there's nobody over there. So the ring goes on. I'm like, okay, it's probably a glitch. Then about 1 a.m, the ring goes on again, and I'm like, you know what? I'll hit the sound button, and then I heard a two-way conversation. Somebody's having a conversation. So I'm like, oh my God, Elke, wake up. And then all of a sudden, it was that's what got me scared. I heard him saying, shh, they're listening to us now. I'm like, and then it gets even weirder because I take my German Shepherd, who everybody calls her the devil dog because she hates everybody. And when there's something next door, I almost have to drag her. I almost have to carry her, almost like a baby going, you got to go first. You're fearless. She's like, no, buddy, you're going first. So we argue. And that night she didn't want to go next door. And I had to come back and said, we got to check out the house. And it was scary.
Some days it's not shy either. Like, I have friends, and I had one experience was so bad. Like, you could hear, like, it sounded like someone was coming through the other floor. When Scar was over, first they called us up because we went on a walk, and they're like, are you guys home? And my sister was at the time with her ex-boyfriend, and I was out on a walk, and they thought someone was breaking in. And then when we got home, more activity started to happen. We had like banging and
running up the stairs.
Yep.
That was terrifying. Oh my God. Do you want to hear the whole story on what happened in July?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
If you feel like sharing, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
It takes a lot to scare me, right? So Kenzie takes off with her friend that morning. Oh my God, my other daughter, I forgot her name. Courtney. Jesus, I'm getting old. So Courtney takes her boyfriend. So I think it was like around July 14th or something like that. It was right after the celebration of the town. And I'm walking over, Elke's watching TV, and I'm walking over, and I put my hands on her chair and said, hey, I said, and then all of a sudden I hear something like jump off a bureau and start running. And I'm like, Elke, who's next door? She goes, nobody. I said, somebody broke in. And you hear somebody running around the hardwood floors. She goes, Jay, she goes, there's nobody there. So I'm like, my heart's beating 100 miles an hour. So I said, all right. I said, verify where the kids are. So she calls up. Courtney's like, I'm up in Ludlow with my boyfriend. Kenzie's at Dunkin' Donuts. I said, are you sure? She goes, yeah. So
again, Zoe didn't want to go.
So I go over, and I'm hearing noises. Bam, bam, bam. So I'm like, only 3 times in my life, I got my shotgun, I loaded it, and I'm like, please don't let anybody be there. So I got my trusty devil dog, and I'm like, I give her the German command to go, and she lays on the floor. I'm like, man's best friend, huh? I said, you're gonna set me alone. So I'm like, come on, let's go upstairs. And she was crying, and I'm like, buddy, I said, I don't like this. I got a bad feeling. So I grabbed the wallet collar, me and her went up the stairs, and that's as far as she went down. She laid down at the top of the stairs, and she was crying, and she was shaking. I said, okay, don't go any farther. And I cleared all the rooms, and I'm like, what is this thing? It's because I'm like, somebody's got to be here. I'm looking under the beds, everything. Come downstairs. Elke's like, I said, nothing's here. So I go back. I unloaded the weapon. I secured it. The dog's happy. She's back on her couch, right? And then all of a sudden, a couple hours go by, and you hear, I said, not again.
But this time it was on our side.
Yeah. So now we came over through the wall on our side. So now Kenzie comes home with her friend, and they're sitting next door, and they got the big screen TV, and they're watching TV. So I'm puzzled. So I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to see maybe it was a fan, an air conditioner, maybe it's something. So I open up Mackenzie's room, and as soon as I go in there, I turn around to close the door. I hear what sounded like somebody took a huge, like 300-400-pound trunk, boom, from the attic. The whole house vibrated. Now, as that happened, coincidentally, I had a heavy cross, which I don't have it on today. I wear 2 crosses. It falls straight to the ground. Now I'm like, oh, what a bad timing. So I go downstairs. Elke's sitting there, her eyes are wide open. She goes, what in the heck was that? I said, I have no idea. So I run next door to check on the girls. They're like, Pop, what did you do? I said, it wasn't me. So they're like, now the girl who was with Mackenzie was a paranormal investigator. Yeah. She goes, this is real. I said, this is as real as it's going to get. Yeah. So later on, Mackenzie decides to buy a pizza and invites us over. Mm-hmm. So we're all sitting around and we're talking about getting an all-girl group going with Mackenzie. And then all of a sudden you hear, and the girl's eyes lit up and she goes, somebody's upstairs, Mr. Yaple. I said, yes, they are. I said,
but don't bother.
I said, just keep eating your pizza because whoever's up there is not real.
Yeah, she was scared like the whole night. Like she stayed up. And I stayed up because I felt bad because I was like, you could hear the noises. Like, it was so active next door. I mean, we all slept downstairs in the living room and everything. It was like, oh.
But that's very rare when that happens. Then we can go sometimes weeks where it's quiet. Well, you think it's quiet and you're normal. Well, normal, what you call normal. Mm-hmm. And then at once in a while, something will just go haywire.
Do you think, and I mean, you could lose sleep just trying to theorize what it is, or the when and the why. Like you can, Let me I wanted to pull this up because I wondered when you were saying that, all I could think of was elemental at the same time, like that it's that trickster elemental, right? I wanted to pull this up. We'll see if it comes up.
Oh my God, that's me.
Yeah, it's you. Okay, I need to know, is that the Henry doll? Is that Henry?
Yes, that's Henry. That's our mascot. Yes. Oh my God. Elke gets yelled at all the time for Henry when we go to craft fairs and she brings him.
Yeah, because it's kind of like one of those baby alive, kind of like were used for Alzheimer patients. So they have kind of like
it looks real.
Yeah, real. So, I got once yelled at around Halloween time, and a lady got really upset. She said, why you put makeup on your baby's face?
Oh, she ripped Elke. Oh, my God.
They're like, it's a doll.
She's shaking it. She goes, oh, my God, and you're shaking your baby, too. And she goes, no, it's not real. And, she's like, how you're going to poison the baby with makeup? And she goes, it's a doll. She goes, oh, my God, and you're shaking your baby. She goes, see how horrible of a parent. She goes, and then Elke's like, it's a doll. And then she's like, oh my God. She goes, no, really, it's a doll. And it was so funny. The more Elke did to it, the more the lady freaked out.
So this was a paranormal investigation that you guys had at the house before Christmas, right?
That was after.
Actually, that was
after Christmas?
February, yeah.
That was probably one of, I'll let you guys, that was a very intense investigation. We got put to the test by a paranormal equipment company who makes paranormal equipment out of Boston, and all heck broke loose that night. And I'll let these guys talk about it.
I probably saw a lot because I'm usually the tech person, so I was behind the computer. So I saw, the different angles of how they have everything set up, and I was seeing clear footage of of the lady Marissa standing there, and there was something just like a black orb standing over her. And then all of a sudden I took a couple pictures of the frames, and then all of a sudden after I think the third photo, it was mocking her. It was standing there, and it was just showing hey, I'm here.
And when we started Courtney was sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
I mean, this was on the other way where Jay kind of like across from it. Courtney was sitting in the chair, and she's doing this, and she said, "Stop it!" Someone was playing with her hair, and she said, "Stop it! Enough!" So they had the XRL camera,
With
and
3D
they
imaging.
pointed it on her, and something was standing next to her and pulling on her hair. So he said, "You want her to get out of the chair?" And Courtney said, "What are you gonna do?" And she said, "Get up out the chair." And sure enough, she got off the chair, and that thing was sitting down on the chair. And then he said, "Can you give Marissa? Can you touch Marissa?" And there's some cool stuff. We're not paranormal investigators,
No.
but when you see that, it's on
cool.
one side kind of like it's pretty interesting because you feel kind of like, on one point they were humans, and when you see that not everything is kind of like, oh, when you see kind of like, oh, he reaches out her hand because he asked, "Can you reach?" And that literally it looked kind of like they're touching their hands, and
Yeah.
for me it's amazing when I see
And
something.
it validates your experiences as well too, right? It validates your experiences.
Yeah.
Is some of that the results of that paranormal investigation on the Facebook page, the 1771 Enfield House?
Yeah,
Can people see some of it?
Yes.
The whole thing is, and actually they found afterwards because they had not even enough time. So we're still getting messages sent when they're reviewing their footage where stuff is. I mean, we posted one picture. Petra found that actually. We were sitting on the table, and the room is kind of, I don't know what but they use some blue light. And we were sitting, and Marissa took a picture, and it isn't upstairs in the bedroom, but she took a picture of Jay, but it was next to it was the mirror. And when Petra said there's something in the mirror, and when she pulled up the picture with the mirror, and you see kind of like a woman, and you see kind of like it looked like an older dress, and she had her hair in a bun up. You could see kind of like she was in that. Yeah, so they're finding a lot.
These are the photos I had, so you can see here where it was like that black. It's kind of hard to see, but that black mass like above her head, and then the next photo was that, just like something standing right behind her. So it went from like a black round ball into a figure just standing there.
Denise is asking if you record the dates when things happen to see if dates coincide with an anniversary or happenings. Is there something?
Sometimes,
Denise.
We have kind of like the beginning of July. I don't know what happened. We have no records of it, but something in the beginning of July must have happened here because that's when the kids were here. Hello. And so I don't know. I mean, we have weird dates too. 11 and 22. This is kind of like a repeatedly thing where tragedy where something happened. 11 and 22 comes always in something.
Yeah, either someone got unalived or
whatever day. It's weird if it's a 11 or 22. You see it in the history. If you ever get a chance up here, I can show you. I got a box like this of records that we went through. And in the beginning, the house was always being sold on the 22nd. And then some of the horrific murders and suicides were on the 11th. And then when you look back from 1846 to 2000, I'll give you a quick one. One of the guys who was found dead in the house in 1846 died February 22nd, 1849. Now, speed that up into 2000, there was one of the sons that lived here from this large family. He was a Glastonbury police officer, and he went down to the locker room, and nobody knows why. He pulled out his service revolver and shot himself in the head. And it was awful. And I felt so bad for that family, what they went through. And he died February 22nd, 2000. And you see, it's like a paradox sometimes. And you don't want to believe it, and you really hope somebody comes and says, "Oh, that's all fake." And then when they look at it, like, what is going on here?
It's incredible. Just even the stories in the book, when you're reading the book, it is overwhelming the
Yeah.
amount of coincidences and synchronicities and repetition of or
Oh,
types of events that repeat over and over.
but we could have went on and on and on.
We could have
You
made a
only have the
series.
surface in
Yeah.
that book. You only
They-
have a surface.
Well, I mean,
of
I
that
just
book.
found out too when we were looking all through these dates, always throughout elementary school and even middle school, you know how they give you numbers? Like you got like number 1, number 2. I always got stuck with number 22. Always. Until we start looking through the numbers, I was like, oh, great. I'm like, now I wonder where I got 22 from. And I was like, and before we start like really connecting all these dots with the tragedy, everything, 22 was my favorite number. And now I'm like, now this number, I'm like, you know what? Not anymore.
But
Right, but could it be that those spirits are trying to get your attention? So that 22 you felt pulled to because they are the ones that are connecting with you.
Yeah,
Like,
sometimes I feel
it's just
like,
a theory, right?
yeah, like to add in
Yeah.
like certain things, like, you know, certain words that will come up. Like, we had a word before. What was it? It was last Sunday. You had a word.
turmoil.
Turmoil. We both had the word turmoil that came in our head, and we just said like, you know, like he brought it out. I was like, that was kind of weird. It was like kind of like certain things are like added in. I think the spirits are trying to like let us know something.
But
Agreed.
here's some things. I'll talk really fast. I know where I'm at. You gotta have us back on. For example, like years ago, way back in the day, my sister, going back in the 80s, she had befriended this guy who taught psychic classes. Find out that this guy, he was a very powerful witch out of Springfield, Mass. He ran a convent and he taught witchcraft, everything. So and one day, oh my God, about 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, I came home from work and I yelled his name. I said, Eddie, blah, 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 blah. And Uncle's like, what are you talking about? I said, I got to call him. So she's like, who? I said, this guy's incredible. Now, this wasn't in the book. I don't talk about the story. I figured why we're on the show. So I call him up and he answered the phone and he's like, oh my God. He goes, I haven't heard from you since the late 80s. He goes, this is really weird. He goes, I never answer my phone. He goes, I let it ring and ring. He goes, but he goes, my wife is cooking. And he says, the phone rang and he goes, get out of the way. I have to grab it. And he goes, wow. So I said to him, I said, Eddie, I said, you know what? I said, let's kind of keep this as a covert operation. I said, I want you to come up to the house and see what you can feel. So he comes up and he was good at what he did. And as he was going around, he's like, he starts talking and he's telling these things, go. And he sat down. He said, you know, first he wants to talk about, hi, how you doing, this and that. And he says, your sister passed away recently, didn't she? And he goes, I really loved your sister. She was a dear friend. And he knew that she had an abortion. She never told anybody. And he says, it's okay, Charlene. It's okay. God forgives you. And she goes, what? He says, okay. He goes, your brother doesn't know. She goes, you can tell it in front of my brother. And she almost hit the ground. She goes, nobody knew that. And he knew that. So he came in, he went to the house, and he says, like you said, there's some kind of weird trickster, but he said there's also something. This was before they expelled. He goes, there's something dark. And he goes, I need more time in here. But he says, I would tell you guys, don't go after it. Whatever this thing is, let it be in a corner. Let it do whatever it's got to do. He goes, it's not, if you don't poke it, it's not going to poke back. He goes, you know what I'm saying? He goes, because if you poke it, he goes, I don't know what this thing is. And he goes, and we don't know how far it's going.
We have a lot of friends, and even my German friend, Iris, she said, it's sleeping. And please let it. He sometimes when some turmoils, weird word. I never used that word.
Turmoil,
I never used that word in my life. Turmoil. But when we have some stuff going on, and she said he pokes. He looks kind of like he opens a little bit his eye. Is it something where we have to? And then she said, and he goes back to sleep. She said, please let him sleep. Don't wake him up. Don't wake him up. He's good.
And
He's
be
good.
mindful, right, about who you allow into the renter's house and the rules and how you want to. Mort was just asking, do you guys have a Facebook page? And we just need to be mindful because we only have a couple of minutes left and we are winding down. So could you, Mackenzie, can you give them the details of
it would be under either the 1771 Enfield House or the
was it Enfield Haunting?
Enfield
CT.
Haunting CT.
Yep. And we have stuff all the time coming up.
Yeah.
We never know what's going to happen. We have events next door. When summer comes up, we do a thing called a haunted campfire tale, which we don't charge that much money for, where we sit outside around a campfire and we ask questions and we talk and we give ghost stories. And then afterwards,
we have a lot of new stuff coming up.
Kenzie, with the new creation of the website, we adding on a lot because she her history teacher is really interested in it, and for the last 2 years he creates that in his Enfield history, and so she wants to create a youth group, paranormal youth group where they can learn. Work, but everything is a little bit not with one night, but she wants to do it over a longer time period where they go to the library doing research, kind of like the whole 9 yard, how a paranormal investigator was work. And so that's why she goes on a lot of investigations to learn. She learns equipment.
fabulous.
New equipment, so we just ordered. We are so proud that we're gonna get
I
tomorrow.
don't want to know how much it costs.
We get an XR Elke camera tomorrow.
She's investing in her future.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the right.
I'm getting chest pain. When I heard they bought that, I'm like, you what? I'm like, oh my God, I want to know.
So
And doing a lot of stuff like that and starting up, coming out with tours and, not just for also the people
History.
too who, the history and who don't know the paranormal and just, when they hear.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I would love to have you guys back on to share more.
Just let us know when you want us on, and if we can come.
Yeah, and I got to run, so we're not getting in trouble. So thank you so much to UFO Paranormal Radio and United Public Radio Network. Thank you so much to 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM out of beautiful New Orleans. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Varla Ventura will be on as my guest. So have a good night, everyone.
bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Show yourself. Oh, please show yourself. You come to me in the night. You take me for the starry flight. You study me, you dissect me. You never show me the truth to me.